Subscribe to this channel and don't forget to hit the bell icon so you never miss any of Majid's amazing videos. It's an uncomfortable paradox. The very people we often rely on for insight, innovation, and leadership can sometimes be the most resistant to changing their minds. Intelligence in our culture is seen as a virtue, and rightly so. It drives progress, solves problems, and builds civilizations. But what we rarely talk about is how intelligence, when left unchecked by humility, can become a barrier to truth. Not because intelligent people aren't capable of recognizing mistakes, but because their very intelligence arms them with the tools to rationalize, defend, and reinforce those mistakes more effectively than most. Highly intelligent individuals have the capacity to form incredibly complex mental models. That's a good thing until those models become so elaborate, so deeply woven into their identity, that abandoning them feels like a personal failure. For a less intellectual person, being wrong may feel like a misstep. For someone who identifies strongly with their intellect, being wrong can feel like an existential threat. It's not just I made a mistake, it's maybe I'm not as smart as I thought I was. That's a terrifying realization for someone whose self-worth is tied to always being right. What often follows is a psychological doubling down. The smarter the individual, the more likely they are to develop sophisticated justifications for why they couldn't possibly be wrong. They gather selective evidence, interpret ambiguity in their favor, and engage in motivated reasoning, not because they are dishonest, but because their mind is protecting them from the blow to their ego. This isn't arrogance in the shallow sense. It's something deeper, a blindness born out of a deeply ingrained belief in one's own intellectual superiority. Social dynamics make this even worse. People who are perceived as intelligent are often surrounded by others who reinforce their thinking: peers, followers, colleagues who hesitate to challenge them. Over time, this creates an echo chamber where dissent is either silenced or filtered out. The individual begins to mistake agreement for truth and confidence for correctness. They stop listening, not because they don't care, but because they've become convinced that their view is not just smart, but unquestionably right. In some cases, they confuse complexity with validity. The more detailed their argument, the more they assume it must be true. We also have to consider the role of success. Intelligent people often succeed early and often. This creates a track record that becomes self-reinforcing. I was right before, so I must be right now. Past success breeds overconfidence, which is perhaps one of the most dangerous mindsets for anyone, especially those in positions of influence. When smart people lead, their errors don't just affect themselves, they ripple out across organizations, communities, even entire nations. And because they speak with authority, their errors are more likely to be accepted as truth by others. True wisdom, then, isn't just about having a high IQ or being quick with answers. It's about knowing the limits of your own understanding. It's about being able to pause and say, maybe I'm wrong. That takes courage. That takes maturity, and ironically, that's a form of intelligence that doesn't always show up on paper. It's not flashy. It's not rewarded in debate. But it's the kind of intelligence that prevents catastrophes, the kind that builds trust, fosters growth, and ultimately leads to better decisions. The danger isn't in being smart. The danger is in becoming so enamored with our own intelligence that we forget to question it. That's when wisdom turns blind, when the very gift that should guide us begins to mislead us, all because we were too proud to reconsider, too clever to admit we were wrong.